The first rays of sunlight stretched across the peaceful village of Umwoma. Roosters crowed in the distance as villagers began their daily routines. At the edge of the village stood a small mud hut with a thatched roof. Outside sat a young woman named Zara with skilled hands. She carefully stitched colourful patterns into a beautiful traditional garment. A basket filled with fabrics rested beside her. Though Zara lived in poverty, she carried herself with grace and dignity. Every morning, she woke before sunrise to sew clothes for the villagers. The little money she earned barely covered her needs, yet she never complained. As villagers passed by, Zara greeted each of them warmly. "Good morning," she called with a smile. Children waved back while elders nodded respectfully. Many admired Zara's kindness, despite having so little. She always seemed content. As the day came to an end, Zara stood outside her small home and gazed toward the horizon. The setting sun painted the sky with shades of gold and orange. She dreamed of a brighter future, but never imagined how much her life was about to change. The next morning, Zara was once again busy helping others. An elderly woman arrived carrying a torn wrapper. "My daughter," the old woman said. "I cannot afford to buy a new one." Zara examined the cloth and smiled. "Do not worry, Mama, I will repair it for you." The old woman sighed with relief. As Zara worked, several hungry children approached her stall. They looked tired and weak. Without hesitation, Zara opened her food basket and shared what little she had. The children smiled gratefully. "Thank you, Zara." Watching them eat brought joy to her heart. Throughout the day, more villagers came seeking her help. Some needed clothes repaired, others simply needed encouragement. Though many people admired her generosity, a few mocked her behind her back. "She gives away too much," one villager whispered. "Kindness won't make her rich," another replied. But Zara paid no attention. She believed that helping others was more valuable than gold. That evening, she walked home carrying an almost empty basket, yet her heart was full. One busy afternoon in the marketplace, a young man stopped in front of Zara's sewing stall. His name was Moloch. He was the son of Lady Amoka, the wealthiest woman in Umwoma. Unlike many rich men, Moloch was humble and respectful. His eyes fell upon a beautifully embroidered garment hanging beside Zara. "This is remarkable," he said. "Did you make it yourself?" Zara nodded. Double quotes, "Yes." Moloch carefully examined the stitching. "I have traveled to many villages, but I have never seen work this beautiful." Zara smiled modestly. "Thank you." Over the following weeks, Moloch returned again and again. Sometimes he brought clothes that needed repairs. Other times he simply stopped by to talk. The two enjoyed discussing life, dreams, and the future. Their friendship grew stronger with each passing day. Soon, people began noticing, and with attention came gossip. The marketplace buzzed with whispers. Women gathered near vegetable stalls discussing Zara and Moloch. Men sitting beneath the village tree joined the conversation. "Have you seen Moloch visiting Zara again?" one woman asked. Another nodded. "Almost every day." Some villagers smiled at the thought, others laughed. A rich man's son could never choose a poor seamstress. The rumors spread from one end of the village to the other. Soon, everyone seemed to have an opinion. The gossip eventually reached the ears of servants working in Lady Amoka's mansion. One servant hurried through the grand compound carrying the news. Inside the luxurious home, Lady Amoka sat upon an elegant chair surrounded by wealth and comfort. When she heard the rumors, her expression darkened immediately. "My son?" she asked coldly. "Spending time with a poor seamstress?" The servant lowered his head. "Yes, my lady." Lady Amoka's eyes narrowed. She could not believe what she was hearing, and in that moment, she made a decision that would soon change the lives of everyone in Umwoma. The servant's words echoed through the grand hall. Lady Amoka rose slowly from her chair. Her gold jewelry shimmered as she paced across the room. For years, she had been the most respected and wealthiest woman in Umwoma. She owned vast farmlands, large storehouses, and countless workers. The thought of her son becoming close to a poor seamstress filled her with anger. "This must stop immediately," she declared. That evening, she summoned Moloch. When he entered the room, she wasted no time. "Tell me the truth," she demanded. "Are you spending time with Zara?" Moloch remained calm. "Yes, Mother." Lady Amoka's face hardened. "Why?" "Because she is kind," Moloch replied. "She is honest, hard-working, and respected by many." Lady Amoka scoffed. Kindness does not make someone worthy of this family. Moloch shook his head. You judge people by their wealth, mother. I judge them by their character. His words only made her angrier. She pointed toward the door. You will stay away from that girl. But Moloch remained silent. For the first time, Lady Amoka realized that her son would not obey her so easily. Several days later, the village market was more crowded than usual. Traders displayed colorful fabrics and baskets of fruit. Children ran between the stalls while villagers bargained loudly. Zara sat peacefully at her sewing stool, focused on her work. Suddenly, murmurs spread through the crowd. Lady Amoka was approaching. She walked through the marketplace with several servants following behind her. The villagers stepped aside. Nobody dared stand in her way. Lady Amoka stopped directly in front of Zara. The marketplace fell silent. Zara looked up respectfully. Good morning, Lady Amoka, but the wealthy woman ignored the greeting. So you are the girl causing all this trouble? Zara blinked in confusion. What trouble? Lady Amoka laughed bitterly. You know exactly what I mean. She pointed toward Zara's simple clothing. You live in a leaking hut. You spend your days sewing scraps. You own nothing. The crowd watched nervously. You think a poor girl like you deserves my son? The words cut deep. Zara lowered her eyes. For a moment, she could not speak. Just then, Moloch pushed through the crowd. Mother, stop this. Lady Amoka turned toward him. No. Then she faced Zara again. You will never belong to our family. The crowd remained silent. Zara slowly packed her sewing materials. Without saying a single word, she walked away. Many villagers felt ashamed, but none of them spoke. That night, the village was quiet. The moon hung high above the trees outside her small hut. Zara sat alone. The cruel words replayed in her mind. For years she had worked hard. She had helped everyone she could, yet people still judged her because she was poor. Tears rolled down her cheeks. For the first time, she questioned whether kindness truly mattered. But as she looked toward the stars, she remembered the lessons her grandfather had taught her. A good heart is worth more than gold. Slowly, she wiped away her tears. She refused to let bitterness enter her heart. Instead, she prayed for strength. Little did she know that a far greater challenge was coming. A few days later, dark clouds gathered over the village. The winds became stronger. The sky turned grey. Soon, heavy rain began to fall. At first, the villagers welcomed it. Their crops needed water, but the rain continued. Hour after hour, day after day. The river overflowed. Floodwaters rushed through fields and roads. Homes were damaged. Crops were destroyed. Families scrambled to save their belongings. Fear spread throughout Umwoma. Disaster showed no signs of stopping. Even Lady Amoka's vast farmlands disappeared beneath the floodwaters. For the first time in many years, the village faced a terrible crisis. Weeks passed. The flood finally ended, but its damage remained. The farms were ruined. Food became scarce. Many families went to bed hungry. Children cried from hunger. The village elders gathered beneath the great tree every day searching for solutions, yet none could be found. Even Lady Amoka began to worry. Her grain stores were running low. Her wealth could not protect her from the disaster. Then, strange rumors began spreading. People noticed something unusual. Anyone who visited Zara's hut returned carrying baskets filled with food. Children left smiling. Families returned with fruits and vegetables. The villagers became curious. Where was Zara finding all this food? The elders decided they needed answers, and so, one morning before sunrise, they secretly followed her. Before sunrise the next morning, Zara quietly left her hut carrying an empty basket. Unknown to her, several village elders followed from a distance. She walked beyond the village, past the flooded fields, past the hills that surrounded Umwoma. For nearly an hour, she continued along a narrow path that few people ever used. Finally, she arrived at a hidden passage between two giant cliffs. The elders exchanged curious glances. They had lived in Umwoma all their lives, but had never seen this place before. Zara stepped through the passage. The elders followed carefully, and then they stopped in amazement. Before them lay a breathtaking valley. Crystal clear streams flowed through fertile land. Fruit trees stretched across the horizon. Mangoes, oranges, and bananas hung from their branches. Fields of vegetables covered the rich soil, birds sang in the trees, flowers bloomed everywhere. Most astonishing of all, the valley had escaped the flood completely. It was as if nature itself had protected it. The elders stared in disbelief. One of them finally spoke. By the ancestors, ... how is this possible? Zara turned and smiled gently. My grandfather discovered this valley many years ago. He taught me how to care for it. The elders looked around once more. There was enough food here to feed the entire village. Suddenly, they understood Zara's secret. The elders returned to Umwoma and shared what they had seen. Soon, the entire village learned about the hidden valley. Many people expected Zara to keep its riches for herself. After all, she had suffered humiliation, she had been mocked, she had been treated unfairly. Some villagers even whispered, "If I were Zara, I would refuse to help anyone." But Zara thought differently. The next day, the villagers gathered at the entrance of the valley. Their faces were filled with hope. Children stood beside their parents. The elderly leaned on walking sticks. Everyone waited for Zara's decision. She stepped forward and looked at them. For a moment, silence filled the air. Then she smiled. No child should go hungry. No family should suffer while I have more than enough. The crowd gasped. Instead of seeking revenge, Zara chose kindness. Tears filled the eyes of many villagers. That day, the gates of the valley were opened to everyone. From sunrise until sunset, Zara worked tirelessly. She organized food distribution for every family. Baskets of fruit were shared, vegetables were harvested fresh, water flowed freely, farmers received seeds to plant new crops. The elderly were cared for, the children laughed once more. Slowly, life began returning to normal. Days became weeks, weeks became months. The fields turned green again, new crops grew, homes were repaired. Hope returned to Umwoma. Everywhere Zara went, people thanked her. The same villagers who had once ignored her now admired her greatly. But Zara never allowed praise to change her. She remained humble. She continued helping others just as she always had, and because of her kindness, the village survived. One evening, as the sun began to set, Lady Amoka walked alone towards Zara's small home. For the first time in her life, she felt ashamed. The woman who once believed wealth was everything now understood how wrong she had been. When she arrived, Zara welcomed her politely. "Good evening, Lady Amoka." The wealthy woman lowered her head. "I have come to ask for your forgiveness." Zara listened quietly. Lady Amoka's voice trembled. "I judged you because you were poor. I believed money made people important. But when our village needed saving, it was not wealth that saved us. It was your kindness." Tears filled her eyes. "You had every reason to turn us away, yet you helped us all." She paused. "Can you forgive me?" For a moment, silence filled the air. Then Zara smiled warmly. "Of course." Lady Amoka looked surprised. "After everything I said?" Zara nodded. A heart that refuses to forgive becomes heavier than any burden. At that moment, Lady Amoka's eyes filled with tears. She embraced Zara. The villagers, watching nearby, smiled. A friendship had begun where bitterness once existed. Months later, Umwoma prepared for a celebration unlike any it had ever seen. The village square was decorated with colorful fabrics and lanterns. Flowers lined the pathways. Musicians tuned their drums. Children ran excitedly through the crowd. It was the wedding day of Zara and Moloch. Villagers gathered from every corner of the region. The ceremony was beautiful. Moloch stood proudly beside Zara. Neither wealth nor poverty mattered anymore. What mattered was the goodness of their hearts. As the sun set, the celebration began. Drums echoed through the village. Men and women danced. Laughter filled the air. Even Lady Amoka danced among the villagers. For the first time in years, everyone felt united. Later that evening, one of the village elders stood before the crowd. He raised his staff and spoke. "My people, today we celebrate more than a wedding. We celebrate a lesson." The crowd fell silent. Gold can buy houses, gold can buy land, but gold cannot buy Kindness, it cannot buy humility, and it cannot buy a good heart. Villagers nodded. They knew the elder spoke the truth. Years later, parents would tell their children the story of Zara. Not because she discovered a hidden valley, not because she married a wealthy man, but because she chose kindness when revenge would have been easier. And so the people of Umwoma learned a lesson they never forgot. True wealth is not measured by what you own. True wealth is measured by what you give. The end.